talk a little bit through your directing style, as we said earlier? That most movies, the actor comes on set, the director and the cameraman have put out the marks where you're going to stand. They dictate where you're going to move into. Gary Oldman, has a different approach, and you took a different approach on this.
Yeah, it was just the same approach. All the best ones I've worked with, it's just if you're in a room and you're doing a scene, and you've got actors that are there to serve the film and not just themselves, it's just saying to them, right, rehearse the scene, where do you want to stand, like the scene in the charity shop, that's the first scene I had to shoot. I think, I've got to start writing with the dramatic scene,
Yeah.
There's points in that, odd things I missed, and I think they were more down to me than any actors, but it's just that thing of going to Olivia. I remember rehearsing it, and Peter ran in behind the thing, and they were doing the dialogue, and Olivia looked at me as if to say, do I go over now? And it's just that thing saying, you go over when you want to go over. If you want to ask him something, if you want to do whatever you want to do, just don't start breakdancing. And and it's just that thing of letting the actors feel that they're doing it, especially when you've got talented people, and not just giving them those restrictions or telling them. I think there's a difference between getting a performance out of an actor and, and I've had it on both sides now, and telling an actor what to do. I think that's the worst thing that you can do, really, is tell them what to do.
So you say you feel very confident directing actors. Obviously, when you've got talent like Peter Mullen and stuff like that, it's down to the casting, isn't it? If you get your casting right, most of your job is done.
I mean, casting's the most important thing, I think, because when it comes to like shots and things and breaking down a scene, I'd certainly never draw a storyboard or anything. I just don't believe that in that process. So
that's just on the day the shot.
That's on the day. That's just letting them block the scene. And looking at it and turning to the DP and go, where do we go? Okay, let's start in that way. We'll get the camera there, and then we can turn around. You've got to technically do it. You're up against things like light because of its technicalities. But it's not like you create your shots from that rather than going in with a load of shots going, I want that. Because it's like, how do you know you want that? Because the actors haven't done the thing yet. Their scene yet. They don't.
Did you do much rehearsal?
None. Just spoke, And I had Olivia for that day, and that was it, And I couldn't get that far into it, but it's all a starting point, and it's all a learning thing, and there's odd moments in it when I look at it and go, I look at the scene at the end of the charity shop and go, why don't you get a fucking close on Olivia? And she's behind the camera, what were you thinking? So there's always odd things, and it's just a total process of learning.
Is this something you're going to continue?
Yeah. Well, I'm making Dog Altogether into a feature film, and because the biggest response I had from it was like they wanted to know what happened to the characters. People said, I want to know what happens to him from there, what. And
because there's great hope at the end of the film. Lead piece, there's great hope.
Yeah. But the interesting thing was that the short that I wrote, the next one called Tyrannosaur, is about Olivia's character. And it was separate from this film. I just thought, I want to see this woman. And then the more I processed the film in my brain, the more I thought, actually, I'm going to make Dog Altogether again. There'll be differences and things, but there'll be a similarity there. That's my starting point. And actually, when the feature film happens, you're going to see what happens to her and what she's facing when she goes home, in the world that she's in. Because we've got this idea of her from this, that it's a quiet, cosy world, and she's very maternal and inviting, and actually when we go home we see what she's up against. Okay. And the title of Tyrannosaur just comes from the idea of like facing fear, or kind of facing something that feels to you like a fucking beast, like a creature, whether that's fear or the things that are depressing you or holding you back, it's about confronting them like the biggest fucking ugliest monster you could think of. And it also refers to Peter's character, and in the feature film we're going to learn that his wife was kind of bedridden, was a big lady, and when she was moving about, she was upstairs in a room and he could hear her sort of walking about in her footsteps, and he used to call her the fucking Tyrannosaurus, Jurassic Park, and his teeth used to fucking wobble when she walked, and it's that idea of living with that, somebody living with that cruelty or living with that shame, you know, that his wife is upstairs and he's just, you know, kind of fucking hopeless as a husband, you know. So he's dealing with the issues that we'll learn more about him and we'll learn a lot about her. And it's about their relationship.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing it. I think we may go to our audience now. And do you have any questions for
Very patient audience.
Just that one thing you reminded me of, what was the scene on paper that didn't work for you when you were...
The scene with the scene where Peter goes to see his pal. It came from when my dad was at home and he was dying. I remember sitting in a room and he had a mate who came round, and he was sat there. And my dad was at the time, you know, like fighting for every breath, you know, just sort of. It's horrible. The most horrible thing is these all weekends when they're trying to breathe, you know, everyone in there. And the guy, his mate, stood there and he was just looking at me, dad, and talking to me. He's going, "Oh, we had some times, me and your dad did some conversations." Me, didn't punch him. Some conversations. He was intelligent, he said. some kind, you know, and he was rambling all this stuff, and all the way through it, my dad was just lying like that, you know. And then he just looked at me, like bypassed me, and just looked me straight in the eye, and he just went, "I'm fucked." You know what I mean? And it just, that was the thing I told Gary. Gary got upset because it was powerful. It cut through everything. It cut through, you know, it was just like, I'm fucked. You know?
Yeah.
And that was it. You know, I just left the room, you know, and I was just, that fucking broke me. And I tried to do it in that scene. I tried to get that same response from him. Because in the scene, the girl comes in and she's very cold to him. He goes, "Oh, remember when me and your dad," she shuts the fucking door on him, you know. There's history there.
Yeah.
And when, you know, I got it and I shot it, and I shot Carl doing it, but I just couldn't get it. And I tried so hard to just get that moment. And I do think sometimes, it's something you probably, sometimes it's something that you might have to have lived to get, you know, to have seen, yeah. So it didn't, that's the scene that didn't work for me. It worked in that it was another world for him and another door closing around him, another person dying, another loss, but didn't work. I wanted to have that impact. It didn't work.
That's very brave.
Yeah.
Very brave.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
You reckon you'll try it in the future?
I don't know if that history will stay in it. You know, I'm not entirely sure really. That was me by the bed. You know, you do these things really. I don't feel, it's a strange one really, because when you use like real life events and people around you, you know, and I wonder, it's like plagiarising from your family, from your own experiences, but I think, well, I don't know, what else am I going to do? I love films like this, but I don't think I'm going to sit down and write a film about a fucking Martian landing in the middle of the town, you know, and I can only, you write about the world you come from, and I suppose as a filmmaker, and in some of those performances like you see today as an actor, trying to make sense of the world that I've come from, you know, as well, and I think it's an exploration in that sense. So I don't know if that'll be, I don't know if it'll come through again, I'm not entirely sure, but may do.
Yeah, that little detail where you put the cotton ball sets of orange juice in her mouth, and the mouth, my mum died last year, and she was pretty much brain dead, she'd had a stroke, and her mouth did exactly the same thing. That was very moving, because it's exactly what her mouth did, just reached out for the moisture.
Yeah.
Where did you get that from? Have you seen that? Because that's exactly what
Well, that's what happened, yeah. My dad died of cancer and he had all that. He had like Sunny Delight and you dip the fucking thing, you know.
The body's they're sort of dead, but they're still,
yeah.
It was very moving.
And it's horrible, you know. It's very horrible. And Carl did great, you know, he did great now. I think it's sometimes something you have to live. You sit in a room with death like that, you know. It's fucking horrible, man, yeah.